This is CBC Here and Now.
Reflection and contemplation.
We weren't people, we were just objects.
So we're talking about reconciliation. That's at least a start. Now is the time to start taking action.
We had been hopeful for quite a long time that this day would come, and I'm thankful that it has.
A milestone in this province and around the country, Canada's first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes. We have a half-hour program for you tonight devoted to marking the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Here and Now's Meg Roberts tells us about some of the events in St. John's today.
Forgive, but not forget. If we forget, those things can happen so easily again.
A day of mourning, reflection, apologies, and making plans to be better. Today, St. John's, along with the rest of the country, participated in the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, a day survivors fought for.
I think it's an awakening in this country. It's raising people's consciousness, and it's created, I think, dialogue amongst the general population.
For others who have survived or been affected by the province's residential schools, it's a painful day filled with inexplicable memories and traumas that have yet to be healed.
Right now, I'm a bit confused with it. I'm still not reconciled with what happened to me in residential school. Feel like I don't belong here. I have no sense of belonging. And that place took it from me.
A lineup outside the rooms today. People wanting to show their support for Indigenous peoples and learn about Newfoundland and Labrador's own past.
I thought it was a very important thing to do on this first day as a way to help the children to learn a little bit more about what has happened and what can we do as a family.
The 94 calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission hang in the atrium. The majority of them have not been implemented, which has First Light, an organization serving the urban Indigenous population in St. John's, asking the province to do more.
We haven't seen a coordinated approach to implement the calls to action that affect this province. And so it's really important that we have a formal process and a plan to implement as many of the calls, all of the calls actually, that fall within the provincial jurisdiction.
First Light says although this day is being marked as a national holiday, reconciliation needs to be worked on year-round. Meg Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
And we'll be talking a lot about Canada's first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation throughout our program tonight. It's a day of reflection, but one that may be difficult for some. Support is available for anyone affected by residential schools. A National Indian Residential School crisis line is set up to provide help to former students and their loved ones. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The number is up on your screen, 1-866-925-4419. Well, the Rooms has created a special kit to be used in schools across the province. The program is designed to teach students more about the history and lasting effects of residential schools. It's called Healing and Commemoration Edu-Kits. Here and Now's Regan Burden has this report.
The aim is to better equip educators, to provide teachers ways that they can incorporate the province's history of residential schools into their standard curriculum. It's all about education and awareness through kits like this one.
And it was put together in response to the Truth and Reconciliation process. And we saw it as part of our role to kind of take part and collaborate with a lot of partners.
The Rooms teamed up with Them Days and an advisory committee with the Healing and Commemoration Project to create the kits. They include photographs, recorded interviews with residential school survivors, copies of Justin Trudeau's apology to the province's residential school survivors, and a mini replica of The Healing, a sealskin artwork created by Inez, Jack, and Jane Shywalk. Some kits are now permanently located in schools in Labrador, but educators right across the province can request to loan one for their school.
The Rooms is kind of committed to and is sending out 5 other kits on loan to different schools who want to use the resources. And it's really taking off. We're getting lots of requests and lots of interest.
And while the kits have only been available for a short time, Ferguson says he's already seeing an impact.
I just took part in a Healing and Commemoration assembly here at the Lake Melville School, which was very powerful. And they've been talking to their kids and doing projects and using the kit to, you know, prepare for a session like that today, where the children of the students who actually went through it were speaking about their own personal experiences.
Ferguson says the Rooms wants to make sure that students in this province have an opportunity to learn about what happened at residential schools here, and that these educates are just one way to make sure that happens. Reagan Burden, CBC News, Northwest River.
Well, St. John's Elementary School has spent the lead up to today teaching students the significance of this day. Students in grades 3 and 4 at St. Matthew's School learned about residential schools through books written by Indigenous authors. While the subject may have been a difficult one, their teacher, Danielle Bishop, felt it was important. Here's a look into her classroom this week.
Boys and girls, this morning we read our story called Phyllis's Orange Shirt. I felt that as a teacher we don't need to just celebrate it or recognize it for one day. I've been doing several things for almost a week now to try and bridge the topic with my students, because it is a very sensitive but a very important topic. So one of the things we've done, and you'll see in my arms here, I have several children's books. Thank goodness, in the last couple of years, many of our Aboriginal peoples who attended residential schools have been brave enough to tell their stories. But many of those stories have now been turned into children's books so that they're more age appropriate for the subject for us to teach our children. We've been reading those stories. We've been discussing those stories. We've been also doing writing about what we've been learning and creating some displays for our hallway.
I thought that they shouldn't have to go through that. They're just kids, and neither should grown-ups. No one should go through that.
The biggest one is what that we learned? Every child matters. Every child matters.
Every child matters, like every kid is loved.
So we've been trying to teach them that it's important to know our history, and we've been trying to teach them about honoring those people who experience those residential schools. We've also been trying to let those people know that have been brave enough to survive and share their stories that we love them and we honor their bravery and we respect them, and that they're a very important part of our community and our country. And as young children, they need to know those stories so that they can honor those people and teach their families about it.
Some kids have went to residential school, and some of them ran into the woods to hide, and some got killed, and people made them cut their hair, and they took their clothes and made them put on different clothes.
How does that make you feel?
Honestly, it's pretty sad because, nobody should go through that.
It is a very sensitive topic, because anytime that you talk about children that have been hurt in any way, or any people that have been hurt in any way, it is very heart-wrenching, especially to hear these stories of these young children that were taken from their families. But we also recognize as teachers that the only way that we can improve our future is to learn about our past so that these things do not repeat themselves for any future children or families.
Well, on the eve of this National Day of Reflection, the Innu Nation and the federal and provincial governments announced they have reached an agreement on the Muskrat Falls rate mitigation deal. The Innu Nation will be consulted on the mitigation agreement. In exchange, it will drop its lawsuit. All three sides issued a joint statement last night. The Innu Nation went to court to argue the two governments failed in their duty to consult the Innu on the agreement in principle reached in July. July. The $5 billion agreement is designed to avoid a massive jump in power bills this fall in Newfoundland. Government officials say they hoped to finalize the agreement by the end of September. On Monday, the Department of Industry released a statement indicating that deadline would not be met. Well, for one Mi'kmaq neurology resident at Memorial University, designating today to honor the painful history of Indigenous peoples is a step forward. John Nick-Jador shares some of his thoughts on what should come next.
I kind of have a unique perspective where I consider myself white passing. I don't think I have an Indigenous phenotype, despite being born and raised on the reserve. So I've been able to kind of pull the curtain back and see what a lot of people think behind the scenes. I feel like when I first came to university, there wasn't a lot of space for Indigenous people physically in the university, and I felt like there was a lot more ignorance about Indigenous history amongst people at that point. And that was only 10 years ago to today, and now I'm finding that with the new generation of people coming through high school and I guess people being more aware of social injustices in general, that people are starting to have those conversations and take the time to learn about the history of the Indigenous people in Newfoundland and Labrador, because it's a pretty tumultuous history we've had here, and I feel like the more we talk about it, the more we'll learn, and I feel like this new generation of students especially are having those conversations. We come to celebrations and we have days, National Aboriginal Day and now Truth and Reconciliation Day, and those are just days out of the calendar. And the thing is, once you flip over to the next day, those issues don't go away, and it's difficult to keep that at the forefront because Indigenous issues are Canadian issues. We're all treaty people in Canada, and so we all have a part to play in keeping that conversation going. Now, how do we do that is the question, and I think a part of that is indigenizing universities, ensuring that high school and junior high and university curriculums tell the correct story of Indigenous people. And I think even as much as reclaiming place names in Indigenous languages, because it's little things that sometimes spark the big conversations. Something as small as using Indigenous names for areas can be beneficial. Ultimately, it's on the general population to be informed and with their own social conscience, their own moral fiber, understanding that Indigenous issues don't just come on National Aboriginal Day or Truth and Reconciliation Day. This is something that we live every single day, and we need that allyship.
Well, some communities have been gathering to share their traditions all week long. Two elders at the Sheshatshiu Innu First Nation showed the younger crowd how to knead and fry Innu donuts in their tents. A number of activities were planned for the week. Closing ceremonies are expected to happen later today. I'm filling in for Ashley today, so let's have a look at the forecast, starting with your weather on the way headlines. A pretty gray and damp day coming for most of us tomorrow. A snow-rain mix for Lab West, and yes, still keeping an eye on Hurricane Sam. And here it is. It intensified to a Category 4 hurricane, but forecasters are still saying that it should track south of the island. So that means that while we could feel the effects of the storm next week, it doesn't look like at the moment there will be any direct impact. So as we all know, things can change pretty quickly, so still keeping an eye on that for sure. In our more immediate future, here's a look at what's happening overnight tonight. There's that snow-rain mix for Labrador West and some showers for the rest of Labrador. Pretty gray overnight tonight. For St. John's, 15 degrees as the overnight low. Some heavier rain along the straits, 10 to 20 millimeters with some higher winds gusting up to 70 kilometers an hour. Bit of rain there for the west coast of the island as well. In Labrador, there's that snow, about 2 centimeters expected there, but once again, that's going to be mixed with some rain. 5 millimeters expected for Happy Valley Goose Bay. Looking ahead to tomorrow as we head into the weekend, fairly gray for most of the day for the island. Some clearing in the west in the afternoon, and a few more flurries and some rain as well for western Labrador, and some rain starting to move in there on Friday night. We'll get to that in a second, but 18 degrees as the high for the Avalon Peninsula, about 2 to 4 millimeters of rain, so not super heavy rain. Similar story for central areas, temperatures in the mid-teens. Looking to the west coast, about 5 millimeters of rain in the Corner Brook, Gross Morin area, but once again, there's that clearing in the afternoons for the southwestern portion of the island. So in Labrador, the Straits at least, going to stay fairly windy there tomorrow. Temperatures dipping down below the double digits, and for western Labrador, 5 millimeters of rain expected there. So once again, that mix of snow and rain for the west. Looking ahead to Friday night, if you're in the east, this is the picture. We're looking at some heavier rain moving in Friday evening. That's 8 o'clock, so about 5 to 10 millimeters of rain there. Another dose of heavy rain around midnight there on Friday. So just having a little closer look at that for those of you making plans for Friday evening. For the rest of the province on Friday, once again, some flurries for western Labrador. It looks like there could be a few flurries developing here in southeastern portion of Labrador as well. Looking ahead to Saturday, some showers in the morning for St. John's, but that should be clearing off in the afternoon, so it could turn into a pretty nice day on Saturday with 16 degrees as the high. Similar story for Grand Falls, Windsor. A bit of a grayer day for the western portion of the island, and for Labrador, temperatures much cooler there, 5 degrees as the high in Lab City, and some sunshine for Nain. So our 5-day forecast looking like things are clearing on Sunday for the east. A nice Sunday, actually 15 degrees, pretty comfortable there. Dipping down though on Monday, and some more precipitation moving in on Tuesday. For central in the long range forecast, a bit of a wet Sunday, clearing on Monday with 11 degrees as the high there. Western part of the island, some sun and cloud on Monday and Tuesday with temperatures in the mid-teens, so looking fairly comfortable there as well. For the rest of Labrador, lots of sunshine on the way for Monday after what will be probably a fairly gray day on Sunday, and 15 degrees on Tuesday with a mix of sun and cloud. For western Labrador, you have that mix of snow and rain, but then things start to clear off nicely. 16 degrees on Tuesday with a mix of sun and cloud, so that's pretty nice. So let's have a look at our viewer photo of the day from Fermuse. I just couldn't resist this one. We may be into fall, but the bugs are still quite busy out there. So just a beautiful butterfly, and I love bees, so had to use this one. I hope you enjoy it too. Thank you so much to Linda Cutler for sending that in.
Land and Sea is making a fresh start this fall with a brand new time slot. Beginning this Sunday, we'll be seen at 1:30 on the island, 1 o'clock in most of Labrador. And wait for it, there are new shows coming beginning October 31st, our Halloween treat to you.
Support is available for anyone affected by the residential school system. The Indian Residential School Crisis Line provides 24-hour emotional and crisis referral services. Call 1-866-925-4419.
Well, events are happening across the country today for this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. One of the largest gatherings was in Ottawa.
We have a responsibility, and we got to take it seriously. So as we bring ceremony and peace to this day, the battle has just begun.
Well, that is one of the speakers at the opening ceremony in front of Parliament Hill. Survivors and supporters gathered to reflect and remember the Indigenous children and families lost or forever changed by the residential school system. Like Remembrance Day, today is a federal statutory holiday. Many provinces and territories have closed government offices and gave students the day off. And that includes this province, the Northwest Territories, Manitoba, Nova Scotia, and PEI. However, Alberta, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, Quebec, and Ontario have chosen not to recognize September 30th as a statutory holiday. Canada installed its first ever Indigenous Governor General just 2 months ago. Here's a message from Mary May Simon.
I am speaking to you from Rideau Hall on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. I am honored to be Canada's Governor General and to be part of acknowledging this very first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Today, I want to communicate a message to you. La réconciliation demande de chaque personne des efforts tous les jours. Dan na pinaswahatigin nibut, day mga limak, isuhangitumut pinaswara haktabut, pitsia hatiginik, amalu pinaswa inusahatsia hatiginik, isulin hatjangimmat. On cette première journée nationale de la vérité et de la réconciliation, je vous invite à prendre un moment pour la fraîcheur à l'histoire canadienne complète. Temegia haktu tamakua piarapit inusutua pilniareaktitauhattasimajuit pitsiatauhattaniku nginniku viningi pitsutigilugit ammalu aneqasimaleraluaramik isuillisimaninga nuitasuunguleksutik ammalu aannianinga nuitanginnasuni. As we strive to resolve the tensions of the past with the promise of the future, we can stand together and move forward with grace and humility. Daman na pinaswaktavut inusittinut ilingatsiareahalangayok.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight for this special Here and Now on Canada's first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. We leave you tonight with an excerpt of Susan Aglugark's The Child by the Inukshuk drum dancers in Iqaluit, one of the musical tributes that will be featured tonight during special programming on CBC Television, CBC Gem, and CBC Radio. That's at 9:30 Newfoundland time, 9 o'clock in most of Labrador. Good night.